要羞辱别人，那当然要来学习如何用最高级的方式咯。今天就要来介绍几个连莎士比亚都认可的 insults。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast。I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. Today, I want to teach you mu-earthed vexing joltheads about Shakespearean insults. Now, for the most part, we found a fun list of Shakespearean insults and a few interesting links about how you can generate them. As a whole, not something that is incredibly easy or useful, but there are some of these words that actually still show up today. So we thought, in light of our theme on movies and entertainment, we would do a very lighthearted episode on how to understand Shakespearean insults, but more specifically, highlight a few things that come from Shakespeare but are still used quite often today.
So there is a long list of insults from that era, but we just wanted to highlight a few that could be very interesting for everyone that we can still use today, or maybe in nowadays there's different meanings to the word. So let's start with the first one, barnacle.
A barnacle is a type of sea life. And they're very loosely related to like crabs. They're shelled. But barnacles are a type of sea life that are most famous for they stick onto the bottom of boats. And they like eat all the bacteria and everything that's on a boat. Well, an old insult to call someone a barnacle is like someone is sucking off of your life energy and they're along for a free ride. They're also incredibly hard to get rid of. So anyone who has owned a boat or had to clean the bottom of a boat, to get rid of barnacles is a very long, painful process. So to call someone a barnacle is basically, it's like you're a nuisance, you're feeding off of me, and it's really hard to get rid of you. So you will actually still hear people in real life or in movies refer to like that person or that, especially in their career, that's just like sucking off of their success and then you just can't get rid of them as a barnacle.
So barnacle in Chinese, 我刚刚稍微查了一下，它叫藤壶。但我觉得讲藤壶大概也还是很多人不太确定那是什么。通常就是它就是粘在那个船底啊，比如说在渔港你可能会看到很多，只要是那种大的船上啊，或者是它甚至有时候会粘在一些比如说已经漂流在海的一些瓶子啊，或各式各样的一些垃圾吧。So 意思就是说 these are the things that basically survived from the resource that was given by someone else. I think the next time I'm going to call my ex a barnacle.
A great use of this word is if you don't want to use like a modern insult that is too difficult on the ears, that starts with a B, or it's like a terrible person. You would say it's a coworker or a family member. A way that you can describe them is they are just a life-sucking barnacle.
Be like, sir, you're the barnacle of my life.
Let's jump into the next one. Haggard. Haggard is another word that we pulled out because it's actually used very often today, but in two different forms. If you want to say that someone looks really exhausted, really tired, maybe they're pale or their face is kind of gaunt, you can actually be like, wow, you're looking haggard today. That's very different than like exhausted. Exhausted is maybe tired, but haggard just looks like someone put them through a typhoon and then they just come out like, oh, my life is terrible. So this would how we use haggard.
就是很憔悴的意思。 So, I mean, I guess if you have someone, if there's barnacles in your life, then you may experience looking haggard once in a while. But actually, I remember that there's also you can kind of describe someone as an old hag, right?
Right, an old hag. And this is primarily an insult aimed at women. But if you can just think of an old person whose clothes are not very well kept, they don't keep their hair or nails or nothing about them looks clean or nice, then we'll call someone a hag. Usually when we're talking about you old hag, it's almost describing someone as a witch.
Yeah, 中文很好笑，叫丑陋的老太婆。Why are there so many insults for women?
You know what? Shakespeare was not a very nice person when it came to describing women. So you'll actually find, including our next word, that most of his insults are aimed towards women. Now, there's a rumor that he was gay, but then it's just a whole lot of there. But yeah, to be very honest, what you'll see is a lot of male characters when they're berating women characters. There's a lot of words for that. But to be fair, there's a lot of ones to describe men. We just don't use them as often anymore.
So the next one, to continue this insult for older women, harpy is another insult.
Yes. A harpy is, in mythology, actually a sort of bird-like creature. It has the bottom half of a bird, but then it has a woman's face. And the harpies are actually related to storm winds. But we actually use the term harpy to describe a mean, foul-tempered woman. So actually you see this in movies all the time, when there's always a trope to hate your mother-in-law. Then there's usually the wife will be complaining about, the husband's mother. It'd be like, oh, your mother is such a harpy, right? It's just that foul wind or just the bad feeling when that person comes in.
So, I mean, do people still use this today?
We'll still use it quite often today, especially if you just want to describe someone. You have to be careful now in the world of Me Too, etc. But a lot of times, if there's a particularly loud or bossy or a female in a movie or in someone's life who just will not stop talking, and it's usually very negative things, you call them a harpy.
Now we call them Karen.
Yes. So, that's a good example. It's how the modern day usage of Karen, you can just replace that with harpy. Same idea.
All right. Awesome. Not that I love all these insults for women, but we need to modernize these terms. Now, the next one, I thought it was pretty interesting, is the word baggage. Okay, everyone knows baggage, right? 行李。但是我也知道说，我们现在用法有的说，我们有很多 emotional baggage, right? 也就是可能你有些人有些经验，那他可能已经造成一些创伤吧。So a lot of times, people would bring baggage into their new relationship from their old relationship, right? But actually, when I looked it up, I'm like, why is this an insult? Again, it's supposed to insult women, specifically for prostitute.
Call someone petty baggage or just, it's a very negative term. One thing that Shakespeare does quite often is he takes very common everyday objects and he finds a very, we'll say, lewd or not a very nice way to describe them. So in the case of baggage, there's two things. One, you use it when you need it and then you just toss it aside. So that's one indication of, again, it's an insult because it's something I use when I need it, but then, I just throw it in a storage closet. So it's not a very valuable thing. But the other way that it describes baggage is because you place something in it when you need it. So you'll actually find in a lot of Shakespearean plays, a lot of the insults, it doesn't seem like an insult until you break apart his indication of how that word is getting used. And then you're like, oh, that's kind of gross.
Yeah. He's not a very nice guy, gotta say. I mean, is there any term specifically aimed at male?
I mean, there are a lot of words that we use from Shakespearean, loggerheaded, or jolt head, which is usually aimed at someone who's dumb. But in Shakespearean plays, you'll actually find that role is always played by a man. So you always have what we call a fool in a play. In modern movies, you also have this character. It's usually some kind of comic relief. They're not very smart, but maybe they're good looking. But that fool character, all the insult words to describe them are usually described at men. You'll actually find that even though Shakespeare insults women a lot, he doesn't typically treat women as dumb. Most of the women are maybe clever or conniving or don't always have very good intentions. But it's usually men that if you get all these insults about someone's intelligence, it's usually directed at men.
Interesting. So he thinks men are stupid, women are conniving.
That would be a very simple way of indicating how his feelings of that work.
This is such a happy episode.
Well, we don't hope that you go out and use a lot of insults, but we'll leave a few links below, including a list of Shakespearean insults, a very fun Shakespearean insult generator created by the Hawaii Public Library. Even looking through the list or through some of these links, you'll find that a lot of these insults or words are still used today. Or as we pointed out with the case of like a Karen versus a harpy, we do have a modern twist on them, but sort of the way we insult people comes out. The one thing I say you can do is if you don't want to use a typical curse word or foul language, let's say around your children, maybe you can mix it up with some Shakespearean bad words that, 99% of people are not going to know what they really are. I hope you join us next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.